Okay, so the first bit about this section is just basic about revenue and cost. So let's just start with that. Okay, so revenue, what they want you to know is the formula and formula definition for all of these three things and how it links to this. That's it. And whilst we're doing it, we might as well learn how they look, like the diagrams of them. So let's start with total revenue. Do either of you know what total revenue is as a calculation?
I think I know it from business. I don't know if it's the same
Yeah.
in
Well,
economics.
yeah, what is it in business?
Isn't it like price times quantity?
Yeah, that's it. It's just price times quantity. So it's the total money that the firm is bringing in, and that's how many things they sell times the price of each of those items. Average revenue, I'll come to in a second, and marginal revenue. So in economics, we look at the margin a lot. So marginal just means for one extra unit. So for example, if a company is producing 10, is making 10 chairs right now, then marginal revenue would be how much extra revenue the 11th chair would make. Or if a company's making 105 chairs right now, the marginal revenue would be a calculation of how much the 106th chair would make. Okay? So how much revenue one extra unit to total revenue.
No, I think get out. Hold on. Sorry.
So, and then average revenue. Do either of you know what average revenue is? Business or economics or anything?
I don't think I know. I
Yeah,
don't remember at all.
cool. So just remember this, in economics, anytime it says average, you're just dividing by how many there are, same as in maths. So in like GCSE maths, if you calculate the mean, you add all the stuff up and divide it by how many there are. In economics, if you do an average of anything, you're dividing it by how many there are. So you're just doing your total revenue divided by your quantity. Then the two additional bits. It's also necessary to know that we can tidy this equation up. So first of all, this one is just the total revenue divided by how many there are, how many units there are. But total revenue we know is price times quantity. So if we're doing price times quantity divided by quantity, what does that cancel down to make? If you have price times quantity and you divide it by quantity, what would that equal? Even if you're,
Price over quantity? Or price, just the price.
yeah, Adam, what do you think?
I'm not quite sure if I'm honest.
I know even if you don't do maths, but say if you do like 2 times 3 and then divide it by 3, what would you end up with? You just end up with 2 again, right?
Yeah.
Because you're timesing it by 3 and then dividing it back by 3. So it's the same thing here. If you have a price and then you timed it by how many there are, and then you divide it by how many there are, you're just going to end up with price. Okay? So all this is saying is that your average revenue is actually just your price. Okay? Because imagine if I make £1,000 by selling 10 things. Well, on average, I'm making revenue of £100 per item. But that £100 is just my price, right?
Okay.
That's all it is. Okay, and then the last bit. So we've covered this. We've covered the formula and the relationships between these three things. Let's just understand how they look, and then we can do this section. So if so, average revenue is just like kind of a mapping of price. Therefore, average revenue is the same as your demand curve. Okay, so it's literally just going to look like this. Wait, let me just actually get a nice diagram. Okay, nice and straightforward. We just so far need to know that that's how they look. Average revenue is just a downward sloping curve. It's basically the same as your demand curve. Okay. So that's all it is, a downward sloping curve. And then just remember marginal revenue. This one is more to memorize rather than understand for the first time. Marginal revenue is always twice as steep as average revenue. We don't need to know why. We could always look at some numbers. I mean, if you do business, you can kind of think about it in that way. But for us, we just need to memorize that. Okay. And we're going to apply it later on. Here's just a random example. So from an econ per style video, if the price is 10, you sell one item, your total revenue is 10 times 1, which is 10. If you sell 2 items, 9 times 2 is 18, 8 times 3 is 24. These are your total revenues. Your average revenue, Adam, how do you calculate average revenue again?
Um, do um, is it just the price times the quantity over the quantity?
Yeah. So it's the
Oh,
total revenue divided by the quantity.
okay.
This way. So if you have that available, it's just 10 divided by 1, which makes 10.
Okay.
So for the next one, it'll be 18 divided by 2, which is 9. And these end up being your price. Okay. And then for the marginal revenue, we're just seeing how much does it get bigger by each time. The jump is 8, so that's my marginal revenue. The jump is 6, so that's my marginal revenue. The jump is 4, so that's my marginal revenue. Okay. But for us, I just want you to know this. Basic definition of all of them and how they look on the diagram. Okay. This part, PED, we would have covered that in theme 1, but we'll quickly recap it anyway. Remember that PED is the responsiveness of demand to a change in price. Basically, we're just saying that if something's inelastic, like energy bills or water bills or milk, like necessities might be inelastic. If the price goes up, does demand go down by a tiny bit or by a lot?
A tiny bit.
Yeah. So in that case, if it's inelastic, what would happen to revenue? Well, if a firm sells energy or electricity, so what would they do? Would they increase their prices or be scared to increase their prices?
If it's inelastic,
Yeah,
no, they wouldn't be scared.
exactly. So that's the answer to this question. If a good or service is inelastic in demand, firms can increase their prices and their total revenue will also increase. Okay. Whereas if a good or service is elastic, if a firm increases their prices, their total revenue will fall. This is because price, if price goes up by say 10%, demand will fall by less than 10%. So whatever bits from here you find harder, just go over them again in your own time and ask me if you're stuck. But grade boundaries are getting higher for Edexcel, so I would just say literally, you've got a whole year, take your time, but learn spec points at one at a time and make sure you fully understand every single spec point. Because they don't really ask